Today we will discuss about a person who is known as the world's second richest person, the one who organized the world's information, the quiet genius. Yes, you are right, we are talking about a genius whose name is Larry Page, so let's begin. In a small house in East Lansing, Michigan, in the early 1980s, the future was already being written, not in a boardroom, not in a lab, in a living room, cluttered with cables, computers, and science magazines that nobody had put away. Lawrence Edward Page was born on March 26, 1973. His father was a pioneer in artificial intelligence. His mother taught computer programming. Most children grew up watching cartoons. Larry Page grew up watching screens and wondering what they could become. By the age of 6, he was already using computers. By 12, he had built his first messaging program, ZuckNet before ZuckNet existed, and wired his father's dental office with it. But more than the programs he built, it was something he said at 12 years old that reveals everything about the man he would become. I knew I was going to start a company. It wasn't a dream. It was a plan. The house was a mess. The future was spotless. Most people go to university to learn what has already been discovered. Larry Page went to the University of Michigan to discover what hadn't been built yet. He was an honors student, but that barely scratches the surface. While his classmates studied, Page was in his dorm room constructing a fully functional inkjet printer out of Lego bricks. He then hand-engineered every circuit and motor needed to run it, and realized it could print large posters at almost zero cost. Nobody asked him to build it. There was no grade for it. No professor assigned it. He built it because a problem existed. And for Larry Page, an unsolved problem was simply an insult to possibility. He joined the university's solar car team. He read everything. He questioned everything. And somewhere between the Lego bricks and the circuit boards, a philosophy was forming, one that would later become the soul of the most powerful company in human history. Don't accept the world as it is. Rebuild it. 10 times better. Stanford University, 1995. The internet existed, but nobody could find anything on it. Search engines ranked pages by how often a word appeared. It was broken, it was gameable, it was, frankly, useless. Larry Page arrived at Stanford to write a PhD dissertation. He began studying something that seemed almost too simple, how web pages link to each other. But hidden inside that simplicity was one of the most powerful ideas anyone had ever had. A page that many important pages link to must itself be important, like citations in science, like votes of confidence from the internet itself. He called it PageRank, and he called the project Google. He met Sergey Brin during an orientation tour. They argued immediately. Two brilliant minds, zero patience for each other's certainty, and yet they couldn't stop talking. By 1998, they had crashed Stanford servers downloading the internet, built a working search engine in a dorm room, and received a check for $100,000, made out to Google Inc., a company that didn't legally exist yet. The man who wrote that check said he didn't need to hear the full pitch. He had heard enough. So had history. The garage in Menlo Park was small. The servers were loud. The cables were held down with duct tape. And from this, one of the greatest companies in the history of civilization was born. Within 1 year of launching, Google was processing 500,000 searches every single day. Within 5 years, 200 million. The simple white page with the colored logo wasn't just a website. It was a new way of thinking, a new way of knowing. In 2004, Google went public. The IPO raised $1.67 billion in a single day. Larry Page and Sergey Brin became billionaires before lunch, but Page wasn't celebrating. He was already building the next thing. YouTube, bought for $1.65 billion in 2006, mocked by analysts, worth hundreds of billions today. Android, launched free to every phone manufacturer on Earth. Now the operating system of over 3 billion devices, Google Maps, Google Cloud, Gmail, Chrome. One by one, Larry Page didn't build products, he built infrastructure. The invisible architecture that the modern world runs on and barely thinks about. That invisibility was always the plan. There is a word for what Larry Page became in his 40s: unreachable, not in terms of wealth, not in terms of power, in terms of thinking. While other CEOs managed companies, Page was asking different questions entirely. Not, how do we grow revenue this quarter, but how do we end aging? How do we make cars drive themselves? How do we beam the internet from balloons floating at the edge of space? In 2015, he dissolved Google, the most recognized brand on Earth, and replaced it with something called Alphabet, a holding company, a container for moonshots, Waymo, self-driving vehicles, Calico, research into extending the human lifespan, DeepMind, artificial general intelligence, Wing, delivery by drone, Kitty Hawk, flying taxis. These weren't side projects, these were bets, placed with hundreds of millions of dollars, on the shape of the next century. Larry Page had stopped thinking about the next product. He was thinking about the next civilization. In 2019, Larry Page stepped down as CEO of Alphabet. He gave no farewell speech. He held no press conference. He simply left. While Mark Zuckerberg testified before the U.S. Senate, while Elon Musk posted on social media around the clock, while every tech billionaire in the world performed their public role, Larry Page went quiet. He moved largely to New Zealand, a country at the edge of the world where the Pacific meets the sky and the nearest paparazzi is a very long flight away. He made no appearances, gave no interviews, posted nothing. And yet, the company he built, powered by the AI infrastructure he championed, the acquisitions he made, the culture of 10 times thinking he installed, kept growing and growing and growing. By 2026, Forbes placed him second on the list of the richest humans alive, $257 billion, accumulated largely in silence. He takes a salary of $1 a year. He owns roughly 6% of the company that answers every question humanity has ever asked. Somewhere, right now, someone is typing into a Google search bar, looking for an answer. Larry Page decided 30 years ago they deserved to have. He never needed to be famous, he only needed to be right.